Ashe, 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 and welcome to the Ashe Shop podcast, a place for people who want to learn about the Orisha and African spiritual practices. I'm Ashley, your Orisha storyteller and guide through the ins and outs of the spiritual journey. Think of this as your spiritual study session. Our studies focus on the practices based within the Yoruba Pantheon, so you can expect to hear stories and gain information from multiple spiritual perspectives, including Isheshe, Lucumi, Candomblé, and so much more. Each episode, we explore a different Orisha, gaining understanding into their meaning and influence. I know y'all been waiting on this episode. I'm not even going to sit here and act like this one, baby. This episode we are talking about Shango, the Shango, the most popular Orisha we know today. All the men want to be him, and all the women want to be with him. Shango is the embodiment of that smooth, chivalrous businessman that we all admire. He is one of the most humanized Orishas. He is a lover. He is a friend. He is a businessman. He is the judge. He is the lawyer. He is the king, the Alafin. While Shango is popularly known as a playboy, because you know he had the three baddest Orisha in the kingdom as his wives, Shango is more than a lover. And in this episode of the Ashe Shop podcast, we are going to take a deeper look into Shango. Kawo Kabayesi. Salute to the king who has come to earth. Now, y'all know we got to start this episode off with a story. And this story you can find in Mitologia dos Orishas by Reginaldo Prandi. I like this story because it gives us some insight into Shango's nature. So sit back and listen to this one. Shango was a rebellious son. He was roaming the world doing as he pleased. His father, Obatala, was informed of his deeds and received many complaints about Shango. Obatala always justified his actions. And he was like, well, I ain't really raised him, so, I can't really say why he act like that. But he always waited for the day that Shango would come to him and submit to him. So one day when Shango was at one of his women houses, we not saying which woman because we ain't trying to get nobody caught up. But he had left his horse tied to the door outside. Obatala and Oduduwa passed by and they took Shango's horse. Shango noticed his horse was gone, bruh. He walked outside. He said, I know I left my horse here. Horse was gone. So he set out looking for it. And people say they don't be snitching, but they be snitching. And Shango found out who took his horse. They said, oh, them two old men. I seen them two old men look at your horse, man. That did look like your horse. So Shango caught up with them and he said, say, bruh. And Obatala turns around and Obatala looked like he wasn't even thinking about trying to be intimidated by Shango. And Shango felt some type of way about that because he's like, I'm Shango. But Obatala commanded, Kunle for the ballet. Kneel, prostrate yourself on the ground at my feet. Shango threw himself onto the ground, baby. He subdued, and Obatala was like, okay. He took the red beaded necklace off Shango's neck and he dumped the beads out, taking the white necklace from his neck and interchanging Shango's beads with red and white and red and white and red and white. When Obatala handed Shango his new red and white necklace, everybody knew that Shango was Obatala's son. And this story shows an energy of Shango that's very hot, that's very fiery, that's very kind of like a teenage boy. You know, when young men are between 16 and 50, well, I mean, 16 and like 21 years old, they're very hot-headed, they're very passionate, they're very intense. And Shango really embodies that energy. Some people say that Shango's name means problems, and we see the embodiment and the need for change within Shango. Within his stories, there are often lessons and messages surrounding humility and patience and restraint and respect. While Shango is born into greatness, we see that even the fourth Alafin of Oyo has to earn his respect and wisdom. Shango's origins can often cause great confusion. There are a few different stories about his parentage and lineage. Some say he is the child of Orisha or Obatala and a Ganju, and he's raised by Yemayá. He's also the fourth Alafin of Oyo. Shango is said to be one of the 16 Erumole or Orisha that Olodumare sent from Orun when the earth was being created. Let's look at the text by Alex Cuoco, The African Narratives of Orisha Spirits and Other Deities, for a little insight into Shango's origins. He wrote that in Yoruba land, Shango is known both as a historical character who was a king Oba and as a deity Orisha. Historically, Shango is said to have been the fourth Alafin of Oyo Ile, the original city of Oyo in the north of Yorubaland, after Dada Ajaka Bayani from the lineage of Oduduwa and Oranmiyan. He was also a strong hunter and the Oba of Koso, known as the fierce ruler with a violent character who ruled with an iron fence, making his reign and kingdom warlike and constantly restless. Shango, who was obstinate and cruel, waged endless wars against many neighboring villages and faraway kingdoms. With every victory, his supremacy over Oyo strengthened, and he was feared by everyone. It is a fact that Shango's historical and divine aspects are interlocked, and because of this, it is quite difficult to coherently separate one from another. Those two aspects of Shango's existence became a major confusion, partially due to a tradition from Oyo that dictates that every Alafin must be deified at death, and also due to the fact that few Alafins had Shango as their first name. So, from this point of view, we can conclude that there are several deified Alafins named Shango, and from this reality comes the arduous task of separating them, their history and facts from the original divine Orisha Shango. We see and we can always account the loss of some history due to the loss that we experienced during the transatlantic slave trade, but even within current day Nigeria, you're going to see the history there that proves the existence of Shango. So, and then there's multiple perspectives and multiple views on his origin. I definitely encourage you to do more research into that yourself, because popularly we don't always discuss Shango literally being a living Oba or a living Alafin, a king, an actual man. He's known popularly as the Orisha of thunder and lightning. Some people might even like to compare him to Zeus with his lightning or Thor with his lightning. But Shango represents an aspect of justice that is bigger than just being like a police officer or a law enforcer. Shango represents that aspect of justice that is literally used to govern people, society, places, even empires like the Great Oyo Empire. Shango dwells in the sky, his main representations being thunder and lightning, which represent cleansing and renewal. The loud booming in the sky letting us know that the rains are coming. Every Shango story demonstrates a change or the need for change. In New Orleans, we welcome and fear the rain, grateful for the thunder and lightning that let us know to bring in our pets and to pull our cars onto the neutral ground. Gawo gabayesi. Let's gain a little insight into Shango's relationship with thunder from John Mason's Orisha New World Old Gods. Baby. Thunder emphasizes the most potent aspect of Shango. It is said that he is as big as his scream. The reality of earth shaking thunder speaks of Shango's ability to move, persuade, and intimidate people in situations with his words. Thunder is the frighteningly clear roar which demands one's undivided attention. When Shango roars, no one is safe. Everyone must stand back and take notice. It is a single truth that everyone hears or feels. He is said to have the gift of gab. He is quick witted and can think on his feet. That is why he is represented as the ruler who can incite the masses with his words, the politician who can be everything for everyone, the lawyer who argues and wins the indefensible cases, the pimp with a large following of devoted women, the missionary or preacher who can convert the disbelievers, and the con artist who can make the big sting and swindle you out of your life savings. Shango represents professions which live off of the psychological needs or weaknesses of people. Even though Shango is represented by smooth talking people, he is conversely the patron of stutterers, those whose voice has a zigzag speech. Which brings us to our second story of this episode. Y'all know, if y'all know me and y'all know my love for this story, you knew we wasn't going to make it through this episode without me telling this story. Because the tongue will raise up the town, but the tongue will also destroy the town. Shango is powerful. Shango is strong, so it's only natural that people gonna talk and gossip about him. And of course, these things are always gonna get back to Obatala's ears. When things get too bad, Obatala calls in Shango, and Shango like, cool, I'll just knock them all out with my thunderstones. It'll be a done deal. Obatala's like, you can't really handle and solve all of your problems with violence. And Shango's kind of like, well, I don't understand why not. Obatala said, well, let's try having a dinner instead and see how that works. Shango sucks his tea. He said, okay. Obatala says, why don't you cook the best food in the world? Shango said, cool, no problem. Shango goes home. He prepares for the feast. He hearing everybody talk about him. He feeling some kind of way because he just like, damn, these people talk about me. I can't do nothing. I can't say nothing back. But he prepares the meal and he brings it to the feast. Obatala tells everybody that tonight Shango has something special for them. It is the best food in the world. And Shango uncovers his cloche and he says, ta-da! Beef tongue. Everybody's like, oh my God, this is so good. This is so delicious. Thank you, Shanko. And Shanko said, yeah, because you know the tongue can raise up the town. So everybody enjoys the dinner, but they must not have enjoyed it that much because a couple weeks later, they right back to talking about Shanko again. They're right back to dragging Shanko for filth again. And of course, word gets back to Obatala again. And Shanko feels some type of way again. He's like, I'm not even doing nothing to these people. Like, what am I supposed to do? I'm just being myself. I can't help it if I'm amazing. I can't help it if I'm great. I can't help it if I'm just naturally divine. And these people just can't stop talking about me. They need to learn to keep my name out their mouth if they don't have nothing good to say about me. And Obatala says, well, Shanko, baby, it don't work like that. And Shanko said, well, I don't understand why not. I think I'm just gonna go and, get rid of all of them and that will solve this problem. Obatala said, well, why don't we try this instead? Why don't we have a dinner? And Shanko's like, we already had a dinner. I'm not feeding them again. He says, well, we'll do something different this time. Shanko is like, you're the voice of reason in my life. I'm gonna listen. Obatala says, why don't we have another dinner? Shango rolled his eyes. Why don't you prepare another meal? Shango sucks his teeth. Why don't you prepare the worst food in the world? Shango says, ha! Okay, no problem. I got this. Shango goes home, and of course, he feels some type of way because it's just like, damn, what do I do to these people for these people to constantly have my name in their mouth like this, huh? But he cooks the meal anyway, and he goes to the feast. And Obatala lets everybody know tonight Shango has prepared something special for you. And Shango uncovers the cloches. He says, ha! I have prepared beef tongue. And everybody's like, but you made this last week. And Shango said, yeah, because the tongue will also destroy the town. Shango, let's not get it twisted at all. Shango does not tolerate injustice. There are so many stories that shows that sometimes Shango is the one that needs to change. There's even one that tells of Shango becoming jealous of his brothers and encouraging their deaths, and another tells of him lying to a close friend about his mother being dead and causing his friend to grieve the mother for years. There's just a couple tales that no tell everything about Shango, but Shango teaches us that men make mistakes, and each mistake is an opportunity for us to improve our character. That's how Shango embodies the well-respected businessman, the politician, the family man, because he leads with his character and not just empty words. But Shango is always on the quest for more power, trying new medicines to help strengthen his ashe so he can go further and expand his empire. Some stories say that he received his power over fire from Oshun, while others say it was Eshu who created a magic for him. But either way it goes, the fire within Shango can be seen as the passion that lies within us all. When Shango spits his fire, he is showing everyone who he has cursed. Shango is as passionate as in battle as he is in his role as a leader, as he is in the bedroom. Shango was created and born to lead. He's known for his courage, never hesitating to take charge. Shango has gotten himself into a few rough patches. John Mason does a really good job at discussing Shango's relationship with leadership, and I want to share this with you. He says that courage is important to Shango because of the treacherous zigzag roads he travels. Shango loves living and hates dying. He believes that living life to the fullest, no matter what circumstances he finds himself in, while neither succumbing to the superficial nonsense associated with living. His resourcefulness allows him to live in any time, in any place, and do well. He is the standard to use when no one thinks of living life. Leave your mark. Build something lasting. As far as people are concerned, Shanko is living. Everyone else is just existing. He was proclaimed ruler because he could go into any situation and extract the best out of it for himself and his followers. He was able to do this because he is the master of strategy and tactics and is therefore associated with audacious, successful generals who and field marshals. Shango has the ability to find the shortest distance between 2 points. He prompts people to make a straight line to their goal and then uses a zigzag line and gets there first. In this respect, he is the master of tackling and going against the winds of defeat, against the odds to reach the goal. He is compared to the broken field runner whose straightest route is determined by the number of obstacles between him and the goal. Shango is the idea of the strategic attack. He is the idea of illuminating the challenge and attacking its weak point. You ever think about how your elders will tell you about things they've done and hardships that they've had and things that they've struggled through? Our elders are often like Shango walking a zigzag path. And that advice they give us, that they offer us sharing their story with us, is literally teaching us how to walk a straight path as opposed to trying to walk a zigzag path. Shango is a natural leader. He is strategy. And we see him walk a path that very few can follow and encouraging his followers to walk a straight path. When people think of justice, they usually think about the police or the enforcers of justice. But what about the ones who make the rules and the systems to ensure that those rules are fair? Fatumbi notes in his book Ebora that in his political role as king of Oyo, the Alafin was advised by a council of grandmothers called Obinrin Obada, meaning the women of Obada. The word Obada is an elision of Oba. Ra, meaning bring us male essence. In the traditional Yoruba culture, the male spiritual power is called Ba, being the word Baba, meaning father. The word Obara is used to describe one of the Odu or scriptures of Ifa. The Odu Obara speaks of transformation through fire and the need to constantly temper arrogance and humility. The Obinrin Obara are elder women who make sure the Alafin does not abuse his power by indulging in arrogant behavior. Before colonialism, the women of Obinrin Obara had the authority to remove the Alafin from office. because the coronation of an Alafin must take place at the funeral of his predecessor. The Obinrin Obara had the right to impel the Alafin to commit suicide as punishment or abuse of power. Elder mothers of Obara are believed to represent the balance between male and female power. For this reason, they shave their heads and dress as men to represent the unity of opposites. These women are predominantly daughters of Oya, the spirit of the wind. There are checks and balances in place. Because if we look at Shango and he's always seeming so hot headed, all of his stories paint him as being this hot headed king who doesn't think before he acts, he just goes, goes, goes. But there were actually systems and checks and balances in place to help him keep walking the straight path. There are many stories that are going to give us insight into Shango's fiery nature. Passion is necessary in a strong leader, but creating a council of people around him to ensure that his passions could be checked was very necessary. Now, the next story is a very, very popular story, and a very popular saying goes along with when we hear the king did not hang Oba Koso, the king did not hang himself. They're often referring to this story. You can find this version in Santeria Stories by Luis Manuel Nunez. And Santeria Stories is the book. This is the Caribbean version of how Shango came to be known as Oba Koso. Oba Koso in Yoruba means the king who did not hang himself. Many years ago, before he was an Orisha, Shango was a king in Africa. He had many lovers and kept many mistresses, both officially, but he only had like two wives. His wives were always nagging and complaining. Maybe that's the reason Shango ruled the kingdom with an iron hand. If there is no peace in his home, a man is at war with the world. There was no peace for Shango. When he walked around the palace, wife number one complained, "Stop that. It's like living with the elephant." If he gave orders to the household, wife number two complained, "Stop yelling. Do you think you're deaf? Like you think we can't hear you?" His wife's nagging caused him to leave the palace. "You leave us alone all the time," they said. "Why can't you just stay at home like other husbands?" They nagged him and nagged him and nagged him. And when he came home, they like, where are our presents? You didn't bring us anything? And she's like, "Why don't you ever take us with you out to have fun?" One day Shango asked for his dinner. His wife's, "Well, all you think we about is filling your stomach. You don't love us." Shango said, "That's enough. I'm going into the jungle where there's some peace and quiet." So he mounted his horse and he left. His wives called after him. She was like, "When you coming back?" Shango said, "Never. I'm never coming back." "He's moody," one wife said. "He'll be back for dinner," said the other wife. But a week went by and Shango didn't return. He was some woman," said one wife. "He probably got drunk," said the other wife. "Wait until he get home. He'll be sorry." But then another month went by and Shango didn't return. His wives became worried. "This is the longest he's ever been away. Maybe he's abandoned us," said wife number one. "Maybe he's gone. I don't know what we're gonna do," said wife number two. The next day, Shango wives sent out a search party and it came back a week later. They said, "We went looking from one end of the jungle to the other, and there's no trace of the king." So word spread all around that the Shango's fate, like the king is gone. Shango went and hung himself. He could not stand being hated and feared, says someone. Someone said he tied a rope around his neck and jumped off the tree because he couldn't stand his wives. More search parties went out, more stories came back. 6 months went by since Shango had left from home. They went to consult, and the counselors and everybody was like, "We can't be without a king, so y'all need to go find the king." So the army went out. They still couldn't find him. "Shango, where are you? Shango, where are you?" Echoes came back. Shango was asleep on top of a big old palm tree in the middle of the jungle. "Shango, Shango, where are you?" Shango's like, "Man, can a man not have some peace? Like, why y'all just can't leave me alone?" And they're like, "Oh my God, Shango's over here." Shango was so angry. He was so upset. He's like, "Are y'all crazy? I would never hang myself. I would never in my life. What's wrong with y'all?" And they're like, "Well, come down. You know, your wife said that you hung yourself." And his wives, again, as soon as they see him, they'll even show him an instant appreciation. They just start going straight for that man neck. And he's like, "See, y'all the problem. Y'all the reason I left." And Shango's like, "Are you calling us a problem? We'll show you what the problem is." Shango ducked and, they started fighting up again and ain't nothing really changed. That's why, according to this story in the Caribbean version, they call Shango Oba So. I wanted to share this story just to show how many different versions there are of the same story, especially when it comes to Shango. And these stories are going to change from one culture, from one geographical area to another. But at the end of the day, the story is still the same. Oba So, the king did not hang. Let's get into Shango's family history because, again, just like his origins tend to raise a few questions, so does his family history. According to the text, and Alex Cuoco, we'll find that Shanko's family history is quite confusing, but it is known as it includes the following: that as an historical character, he is the son of Odede, the original name of Oramian, and the grandchild of Okanbi, the son of Oduduwa. Yet Shango also said to be the son of Oramian and Torosi, the daughter of Elempe, the king of Tampas. He is also said to be from his mother's country, Tapa, where he grew up. Later on, he went to Koso, where the inhabitants did not accept him because he was violent and merciless. Afterwards, he went to Oyo, where he established a village, which he named Koso. So, in this matter, he was able to maintain the title of Oba Koso, the king of Koso. Shango is said to have been deified only after his death, and as an Orisha, Shango is also known to be the son of Iyamase by Aranmian, as an Orisha, not as the man Aramian, but as the Orisha Aramian. Orisha Olofun, being the father of Aramian, becomes Shango's grandfather. Shango also said to be the second deity to spring out of the body of Yemayá after she fell while being chased by Arungan, therefore making Yemayá Shango's mother. In one myth, Shango appears to be the son of Aganju and Obatala, metamorphosizing into a female. Yemoja then is said to have become his adopted mother at Obatala's request. Dada Ajaka Bayani, who historically was the Alafin of Oyo prior to Shango's reign, but also Arumian's older son and Shango's half brother. And then, hold on. Yeah, and his half brother. And then the Orisha Babaluaye, to whom Shango shares an origin in Tapa with, is said to also be Shango's older brother with the Orisha Ogun, Eshu, and Ochosi. Shango is said to have been a womanizer who constantly pursued many, affairs. Usually getting, kind of getting him in trouble. But he succeeded in having many wives, including Oya, Osun, and Oba, who were gallantly seduced by him, with the exception of Yewa, because as the story go, he ain't get in that garden. And that's what the story we sticking to. So at the time Shango left Oyo, Oya was the only wife accompanying him. And there's even a myth that says he married Yamusha. So when it comes to Shango stories, baby, I feel like sometimes people just be putting anything in the stories together. But when you do your research, you'll see a pattern there showing the lineage of Shango the Alafin and also Shango the Orisha. Again, I definitely encourage you to do your own research and see and figure that out for yourself. While there are a few stories regarding Shango's parentage, we see through the Patakis stories that Yemayá plays a devoted and protective mother to Shango, while Obatala is constantly there as the wise and patient father. I think it's Shango's relationships were discussed so often that people think Shango is only like just about being a ladies' man. It's popularly known that Shango had what they say like 17 wives, three of them being Oba Nani, Oshun, and Oya. Understand that it wasn't the man wasn't expected for his wives to split the rent with him or to pay for dinner all the time. Shango was a provider and a protector and a gentle lover. His women were not fighting to get away from him, they were fighting over him. I never came across one story saying that his women weren't happy with the way he cared for them or that he wasn't providing for them. Well, there is that one story where Oshun was trying to get away from him, but we're not going to talk about that story. And then there is that other story where Yemayá says she regretted her encounters with him, but we're not going to talk about that story either. However, all of his wives and conquests in his relationship, we see that Oya appears to be an extremely significant relationship with him. And no matter what happens, she literally sticks by his side. And in the end, they said it was Oya who declared Oba Koso. The king did not hang. Then when it comes to other relationships with Shango, y'all know we gonna have to talk about this beef. Because interestingly enough, Shango and Ogun have a long standing feud. It could be behind something that they said Ogun did to Yemayá. It could be said, like, it's a whole bunch of reasons they don't get along. They could just not get along because they just are like oil and vinegar, oil and water. But it's kind of like, from my perspective, and I got to ask the question, is it possible that Ogun and Shango don't get along because they got the same taste in women? Because either way it go, no matter how we look at it, they not getting along. Which brings me to the next story. When Shango steals Ogun's throne. I know some of y'all like, I ain't heard this story, baby. Sit down and enjoy the story. In the realm where power and ambition casted long shadows, a tale of rivalry and cunning emerged between two brothers, Shango and Ogun, born from the same lineage. Their destinies intertwined with both kinship and conflict. Yet the trappings of power and the call to the throne fueled the rift that forever altered their relationship. Shango was a tempestuous and audacious spirit that seized the throne from Ogun, and Ogun, look, he was just kind of like, that's my people. I love my people. His rule was marked by turbulence. The seas themselves whispered their disapproval to Yemayá, the queen of the waters. Shango reigned. Look, it was violent. It wasn't good. They were always fighting. And Ogun was the one, because he was the firstborn, who was named to be king. But Shango was like, Ogun don't even look like he could be king. Ogun don't even look like he should have power. Ogun, he may not have fit the role, but he cared very much about the people. He cared very much about the growth of the kingdom. But Shango, in his heart, like, there was a little bit of jealousy and envy churning up there, and it wasn't laying to rest. The embers of rivalry flickered and they grew in Shango's heart, and Shango resolved to do something about it. So the night before the coronation, Shango went to Ogun and was like, "Oh my God, bro, I'm so happy you're gonna be king. Why don't we drink and get drunk? And I brought some women." And Ogun, he ain't want to turn down a drink and he ain't want to turn down no women. So he started drinking, not knowing that there was a potion slipped into the alcohol. When Ogun passed out, Shango dressed up in the robes that was meant for Ogun's coronation. Ogun never woke up for the coronation. When everybody saw this excellent, just, I mean, masculine, beautiful, handsome man, just dressed from head to toe in just luxury silks and linens, just looking like everything that a black Yoruba king is supposed to look like. They never even questioned if that was the man who was supposed to be receiving the crown until after they put the crown on his head. And Yemoja looked up and said, Shango. And Shango stood up and said, I'm the king now. And baby, when Ogun woke up, he was mad. and they've been fighting ever since. This story just tickles me because it's kind of like it gives us a whole different perspective on this beef that has been going on forever. No matter what, how we look at this, Shango and Ogun, yeah, they just not gonna get along. They just not gonna get along. Let's take a look at how Shango is viewed according to different traditions. In Cuba, Shango represents some major characteristics needed by all Cubans: business. He is the one in charge of commerce, trade, business deals, exchanges, legal documents, contracts, agreements, selling and buying, everything, including the oldest trade in the world. But then, according to Santeria tradition, we see Shango's colors, as usual, the red and white and the six. But he's said to be the son of Aganju, according to Santeria, and Yemu, the female aspect of Obatala. Yemayá, the ocean deity, is said to have raised him in according with the Santeria perspective. Santa Barbara, is one of the most popular of Shango's synchronicities with the saints, was probably identified as Shango because she has a cup in one hand, like his mortar, and a sword in the other hand, like his axe. Because Shango is represented by the double-headed axe, chopping his chopping his enemies' heads off no matter which way he swings it. While we popularly know Shango is associated with the double headed axe, it's his relationship and ownership of the drum that literally solidifies his position at every ceremony, ritual, bembe, and initiation. Because what are we going to do without the drums, y'all? It's going to be boring. In this episode, we covered a little bit of everything about Shango. We talked about his origins as the Alafin. We talked about his origins as the Orisha, his relationships with other Orisha, his relationships with trouble and problems. We know that Shango does not fear death. He just really loves living. Shango has a passion and thirst for life that is unmatched. Do not provoke Shango. Kabayesi does not accept excuses. He who has fiery eyes that burn like embers, Shango who makes fire fall from the sky, using his lightning to expose liars. Shango is the owner of Ashe, and words when he speaks, the whole city goes silent. Shango who speaks like thunder and fights like a leopard. Oba Koso, the king did not hang. Kawo Kabayesi. Thank you so much for listening to the 10th episode of the Ashe Shop podcast, where we discuss the power of Shango. I hope you enjoy this episode, and I want to hear your feedback, so leave it in the comments. Go ahead and shoot me an email at ashley@theasheshop.com. And you could get in touch with me on one of many social media platforms where you can find me on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, all that, baby. Make sure y'all check in for the next episodes of the Ashe Shop podcast. Ashe, Ashe, Ashe. Oh.